So before we get started, I wanted to let everybody know that I have now 2 books for sale on Kindle. One is the recommended reading for the True Conservative, and the other one that has been published today is called Bad Democrat. Bad Democrat is 227 pages, and I've been giving samples of it pretty much every day for the past few months or so. Both of the books are available on Kindle Unlimited. If you're a Kindle Unlimited person, you can get them for free. Otherwise, they're $3.99 each. Now, back to the podcast.
Trophy anymore. She's like, that's like a passe, not a good feminist word. She's like, you're actually subconsciously objectifying yourself with that word. And I was like, listen, if I don't objectify myself, nobody's gonna do it for me. Okay? Like, if one more guy says he likes me for my brain, I'm getting a boob job. That's where I'm at. I don't want that compliment anymore. I get it a lot. A lot of men think they're being respectful and clever, and they're like, I like your brain. You've got a good brain on your shoulders. And I'm like, what do I do with that? Like, do you want me to send you a brain photo? Does that turn you on? Just like a sexy MRI of my brain? Is that what you want?
Good morning. It's Wednesday, Science Wednesday, June the 17th, and this is the True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we will have Varney and Company, motivation, meditation, and Professor Feynman. All that and more when I get back. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I should not change, the courage to change the things I should, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Thank you. Now, Varney and Company.
And Company's up now, and David Asman is in for Stuart. David, good morning.
Great show, Cheryl. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I am David Asman in for Stuart. President Trump wraps up his G7 trip today and is expected to make news before departing aboard Air Force One. He's going to be holding a news conference at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and you'll see it right here. Well, oil prices are hovering around $76 a barrel, holding pretty near that 3-month low. The rest of the market relatively flat. It's waiting for where all eyes are going at about 2 o'clock this afternoon. All eyes are going to be on Kevin Warsh's first presser as the new Fed chair, as easing oil prices will likely make it a bit easier for Fed governors to leave interest rates unchanged. On the show today, authorities are searching for additional suspects as investigators uncover new details about the alleged plot targeting last weekend's UFC Freedom 250 event. Plus, my first TV interview ever with a robot. We're going to be having the new NVIDIA-powered H2 Plus humanoid robot right here on set. It is Wednesday, June 17, 2026.
And Stuart Varney is off to go pound sterling. Nonprofit news now. Back in a minute. Thank you. And then there's charm, perhaps the most deceptive of all. The bad Democrat often knows exactly how to appear likable, trustworthy, even charismatic. They can be warm, witty, attentive, especially when they want something. Charm is their camouflage. It draws people in, lowers defenses, and masks the darker elements beneath the surface. It can be used to seduce, to earn trust, to disarm critics. And once the person is sufficiently charmed, once they've decided that this individual is nice or fun or just misunderstood, then the bad Democrat has free rein. Because now, if the bad Democrat behaves badly, others will rationalize it. They'll say, but they're usually so nice, or they didn't mean it like that, or they're just going through something. This combination of guilt, fear, and charm creates a powerful cycle. The bad Democrat can push and pull, punish and reward, confuse and clarify, all on their terms. People around them often end up second-guessing themselves, constantly unsure if they're overreacting or being unfair. They begin to internalize the idea that the bad Democrat's emotional state is their responsibility. This is not a mistake, it's the result of deliberate psychological conditioning. The bad Democrat thrives in environments where people doubt themselves and remain preoccupied with earning approval or avoiding conflict. Over time, this kind of manipulation becomes deep emotional corrosion. It leaves people drained, anxious, and disconnected from their own intuition. They stop trusting their gut. They learn to ignore red flags. They begin to normalize dysfunction, excusing behavior that they would never tolerate in another context. And the bad Democrat continues unchallenged because their tactics are so interwoven with subtlety and misdirection that it becomes difficult to point to a single obvious offense. They never say exactly the wrong thing. They rarely cross the line in a way that's provable. Instead, they skirt it constantly, moving just enough to maintain control without triggering resistance. The defining trait of a truly bad Democrat is their constant lack of genuine empathy or remorse. It's not just that they struggle to understand what others are feeling, it's that they often don't care. At the heart of this absence is a fundamental disconnection from the emotional realities of other people. Where most individuals feel a natural pull toward concern when they see someone in pain, bad Democrats remain unmoved. They may initiate the appropriate responses, they may say the right words, not at the right moments. But these gestures are superficial. They're not rooted in authentic care. They're calculated, rehearsed, often used to serve a purpose rather than to express sincere understanding. Empathy, at its core, requires the ability to step outside oneself and inhabit the experience of another person. It's a skill, but it's also a disposition. For someone lacking this internal compass, other people's experiences are just data points, events to be analyzed, exploited, or ignored, depending on what's most useful. When someone is hurting, the bad Democrat might use that vulnerability as leverage. They might turn it into a story that benefits them or use it to elevate their own image by pretending to offer support. But at no point are they genuinely affected by another's suffering. The pain of others simply doesn't register as meaningful unless it threatens their own comfort or image. Remorse, too, is a foreign territory. When they cause harm, their first instinct is not to reflect, but to rationalize. They justify their behavior, shift blame, or rewrite the narrative to cast themselves in a better light. You'll rarely hear them saying, "I was wrong," without it being wrapped in conditions or excuses. If they do apologize, it's often strategic, meant to pacify or to manipulate the situation in their favor. Their apology lacks weight because it doesn't come from an internal reckoning with their actions. It's a performance, not a process. They're not interested in repair, only in resolution that benefits them. This absence of remorse can become especially clear in repeated patterns. Everyone makes mistakes, But when someone hurts others consistently and shows no signs of guilt or change, it reveals a deeper issue. The lack of remorse removes any internal barrier to wrongdoing. There's no emotional cost to their actions, no internal mechanism urging them to do better next time. And without that emotional consequence, behavior becomes unchecked. They feel entitled to act on impulse, to deceive, to hurt, to manipulate, because there's no moral gravity pulling them back toward accountability. What's more, when they witness someone confronting them with hurt or disappointment, they often react with irritation, not reflection. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Dr. Berg.
There are 3 steps I'm going to show you to alleviate constipation. For example, if you take a laxative for over a year, you start to create damage to the nerves and the muscles of your colon. And make sure you always read the ingredients. If it has mineral oil, do not take it, because what that's going to do, it's going to leach out fat-soluble vitamins from your liver and other parts of your body. The most common type of constipation is called primary constipation. There's not like a tumor in there that's obstructing it. The first line of treatment for primary constipation is polyethylene glycol, petroleum-based medication. It's also used to preserve wood that's been waterlogged. It's used in propellants for missiles for the U.S. Navy. Now, it is considered safe, but growing evidence has shown that it's becoming a problem. In between 1990 and 1998, they tested people, and they found over 72% of those who they tested had anti-polyethylene glycol antibodies, which means these people have developed a hypersensitivity to this product, which is in a lot of different things, including medications, like I mentioned. But when they're exposed to it in other related products, they tend to get hives, might get dizzy. Now, what we've been told about constipation, what we need to do, despite hardly any evidence of this being true, is to eat more fiber and drink more water and exercise. Ideally, the microbes consume most of the fiber, so you don't have this undigested fiber that's actually plugging up your colon. So if we just kind of step back and look at what we're dealing with a digestive tube or a pipe, which is roughly between 20 and 25 feet. Now, to the left and right, you have the gallbladder, which squeezes out bile to help you digest the fat. And then you have the pancreas, which releases enzymes to start breaking down the food. And enzymes that are made by the small intestine, all working together to break down your food and absorb nutrients. Now, think about this. If you don't have enough hydrochloric acid in your stomach to break down the protein, then you end up with undigested protein that enters the small intestine. And so you might get cramping and extra work by the pancreas to pump out more enzymes. One thing that humans cannot digest is fiber. A lot of the microbes that you have in the body act on this fiber. And ideally, a lot of that fiber is going to be broken down, so then we have the actual stool or the residue that's left over. So the stool is composed of about 75% water, 25% bacteria, and then some dead cells. Now, my digestive system was never worse than when I went on a vegan diet and I had beans, fruits, I had whole grains. I was doing soy. Oh my goodness, did my stomach get bloated and crampy, and I was so uncomfortable. You have to have a super healthy digestive system to be able to be a vegan. Because if you have leaky gut, these are really going to irritate the already existing inflammatory surface area of your intestine. And this is why some people do so well on the carnivore diet, because you eliminate all this fiber. We're getting more meat, which has a lot of glutamine, which actually can heal the intestine. So let's talk about the 3 steps that you should do to solve this problem. Okay, number 1 would be something called intermittent fasting. They should bring down their consumption of food to 2 meals a day, 1 for lunch, one at dinner, and eat nothing in between with those meals. That will at least give your system a chance to catch up and have a break. Okay, step number 2. This is where we're going to fix the diet. The more complex your meals are with all these different ingredients, the more chance for more stress on the digestive system. Maybe you start off with some meat and maybe 2 cups of vegetables or salad, which would be better, easier to digest than like broccoli, things like that, unless the broccoli is cooked or steamed. Now, one really good vegetable would be sauerkraut, which is really good for healing a leaky gut. So you don't want to get your fiber from grain synthetically created. We want to give your microbes things that they recognize and they're used to digesting, things like polyphenols to actually feed the microbes. But when you're dealing with the fiber from corn fiber, you're not getting these polyphenols. Another really, really important thing to avoid is seed oils, soy, corn, canola, because these things have been severely refined. So change your diet, and the diet I'm going to recommend is the healthy version of the ketogenic diet. And I'm going to put a link down below, but you're going to tweak it by not consuming a massive amount of greens or salad. You're going to have just a small amount and probably cooked or fermented, at least initially. All right, the third step, betaine hydrochloride to build up your hydrochloric acid in your stomach. So how do you know if you need hydrochloric acid? Well, constipation is one symptom of a lack of bile. Then you need betaine hydrochloride. So you would take like 5 of those little tablets before you eat. That alone could get rid of your constipation because bile helps lubricate the colon. And then we get to probiotics, okay? But realize that if you just get your diet corrected, you may not need probiotics. Now, another very interesting thing about your foods, when you consume plants that are raised on healthy soils, that plant is loaded with microbes. I mean, this is how cows, for example, populate their colons, by consuming the grass that has the microbes from the soil. Another really good thing for you to use is magnesium, and more than just like the normal RDAs, which could come out to like 800 milligrams or even a little bit more. The other nutrient deficiency that is common in constipation is vitamin B1, which is if you've been consuming a lot of refined carbohydrates or sugars. And so you want to start taking a good vitamin B1 so you can then help stimulate the pumping action of the colon. This is where you might want to add some castor oil or senna, which is a really common natural herbal laxative that has very minimal side effects, if any, especially if you compare that to drugs. So these 3 steps should handle most constipation problems. There is always exceptions to the rules, and there's other things to take. But for right now, I think the most important thing is to start with step 1, which is intermittent fasting.
And that was Dr. Berg. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, some motivation.
I don't care who you are. Life is going to knock you down. We all get knocked out.
You gonna get hit by life. Life is gonna knock you down.
You're gonna get your butt kicked.
You're laying on the mat, gasping, and you don't know what you're gonna do. You're a bit perplexed. Maybe it's with your kids, maybe with your marriage, maybe with your health, maybe some other arena of life. Maybe you received some news recently that just sort of knocked the wind out of you. You didn't see it coming. And you feel like you've been knocked down.
Every time you go through pain, you can't control the pain you go through. And that pain may be with you for years and years and years. You can't always control that. But you can decide whether it's going to make you bitter or better. Whether it's going to be a stepping stone or it's going to be a stumbling block. It's an opportunity to grow in character.
We have been knocked to the ground, but we're not destroyed.
Life's gonna hit you in your mouth, and you gotta do me a huge favor. Your why has to be greater than that knockdown.
What's your why?
Why do you wake up in the morning? Why do you go out and practice? Why?
You gotta have a why. You gotta have a reason for why you do what you do. You gotta know why you're there, because your reasons when life drops you to your knees
mama proud of me. Why you here, Les? You still want this dream? We kicking your butt. I know, but I promise I'm going to get this house for her. I promise my kids I'm going to do for them. I'm going to give them a better life. I want to leave them a legacy. I'm not going to give up. Go back, fool, go back. No. Push yourself. Get up. Your mama needs you. Your daddy needs you. Your children need you. Get up. Your wife's going to push you when you can't push yourself. When you cry, you'll feel lonely. That's all going to happen to you. Things that's going to happen to you in life, ladies and gentlemen, make it okay. I can become upset, nervous, tense about it, weak about it, or I can say, it's okay. I can change how I respond to it. You got to make it okay. If somebody came and knocked you down, and ain't nothing you can do about it. But if I come back a week later and you're still on the ground, we got a problem. And some of you say, it ain't my fault. You right. What happened to you is not your fault. You have absolutely nothing to do with what happened to you. It's not your fault. You got knocked on the ground. You had absolutely nothing to do with that. And I'm not blaming you for that. But if I come back a week later, you're still on the ground. And you're still trapped. That's your fault. If I come back a year later, you still on the ground? Doggone it, you still on the ground after 20 years? That's your fault. If you get knocked down, there's nothing you can do about it. But getting back up has every single thing to do with you. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's coming to get you. But you can get yourself. Your life is your responsibility. Nobody's coming to save you. Whatever this dream life is that you want, nobody's going to give that to you. The dream is real. They just not passing it out. But it's real. And you can have it. But you got to grind like you want it. And you can grind your way through it, or you can cry your way through it. You better go inside. You still looking outside for the stuff that's already inside. You still looking for someone to save you when you already your superhero. You looking for some information from somebody when you already got what you need in your head. It's just time for you to get up and be the best version of you. You have everything it takes. Everything you need for your success, you have it. Look yourself in the mirror and say, I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. I know I can. Do whatever it takes. You your biggest driver. There's a power in you that regardless of what happens to you, you can stand up inside of yourself. I don't care how many times you've had to cry yourself to sleep. I don't care how difficult it is. Don't you dare give up now. Because whatever is over you defines you. And whatever defines you limits you. You better put some strength in your back, plant your feet, square your shoulders, and stand up to it. You keep standing. No matter how rough the sea, you keep standing. You don't give up. You're standing up for your dreams. You're standing up for peace of mind. You're standing up for health. Don't you dare sit down. Don't you dare crumble under the weight of it. Don't you dare give in because of the nature of it. Don't you dare go home and raise the white flag of surrender. This is not your season to die. This is not your season to quit. There's joy, there's peace, there's breakthrough, but you'll never see it if you don't stand up to it. You have to make a decision that this is where we're going to end up.
And that is motivation. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now a little meditation. And that was a little bit of meditation. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, Victor Davis Hanson.
Speaking of war, Victor, Spencer Pratt says it's war. On Friday, two things happened. One is his business mysteriously burned down.
I know it did. Not so mysteriously. I think some of his political opponents' supporters did, but who knows?
Yeah. But he also put out a concession video. I'm going to read this now. This is from Red State. And after Karen Bass, this is, watch it, they'll wish the mail ballot fraud scheme to elevate Rahman had never taken place. Pratt says he's moving on from the campaign phase of his mission to save Los Angeles to the next more interesting phase, reminding people that his goal wasn't to become mayor, but to expose the corrupt machine, and that he's laser focused on just that. Do you think they can really get rid of me that easily, says Pratt. Hey, morons, I didn't get into this for political power. I got into this to expose the corrupt machine. Nothing's changed. You enjoy your worthless meetings in City Hall. I've been lighting you up every single day, and now I don't have to worry about offending CNN viewers. I don't have campaign laws hamstringing me now. It's war. He has threats of, he's got some videos and documents that are going to be very harmful to one of the two candidates. Victor, I think he's here to stay. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think what he's referring to is that every would-be whistleblower or discontent is sending him material. He's the person to do it, and he will air it, and that's going to give him a lot of exposure and clout. But I mean, when you run for office in Los Angeles or California in general, what he's basically saying, the subtext is it so hard to say that if you want to be a voter, then you don't just go to get a building permit or apply for disability and give your name and they mail it to it. You just register to vote. You just go to a state office and you take the initiative and you register, and then you give an address. You show a driver's license, California driver's license, which is now not required. You should have to have a driver's license or a state-issued ID, one or the other. They mail it. You give them an address. They check it on a computer to see if you're actually at that address, and they mail you one ballot. And then you take that ballot, and if you want to fill it out, we could call it an absentee ballot. Maybe you would be ill, but more likely you should go to the polls, and you should show your California driver's license again. And we don't do that. But we do if you want to get disability. I mean, I must have been to 40 medical procedure things for this latest bout with cancer. I'm talking about blood draws. I'm talking about x-rays, CTs, lung volume. Every place I went, can I see your ID? Can I see your ID? Can I see your ID? But not to vote? Not to vote? That's just crazy. So what he's saying is, you people conduct elections and you have no idea who's voting. You give licenses to people here illegally, and that license is used to get a registered vote. But you don't even check if they're at the address. You don't even check if they know English. They don't have to. Nobody has to know it. How could you vote and not know the language of the country? By making an X, you can do that in California with a witness. And then what's so hard? I mean, India, you're talking about India, 1.4 billion. They don't take a week to tally the ballots. And what's the good of saying, well, we authenticate it? Well, you have to authenticate it because you have so many laxities built in this corrupt system. And even then, when you did that in the 2024 election, you only rejected 0.09 of the ballots. So you're not really auditing them. You're letting them go right by you. So I think the election exposed kind of California reached critical mass at that point. People said to themselves, this state is dysfunctional. It can't conduct honest, transparent elections with readily tabulated votes. Nobody trusts it anymore. It has no confidence of the population. And we understand what's happening. 300,000 to 500,000 people are leaving a year that are taxpayers in the middle and upper middle class brackets. When they go, then we have more entitlements and more people come into the state, either legally or illegally, that are impoverished. And there's less and less money to pay for more and more people that want federal, state, local help in California. And therefore, we're going to do what? We're going to raise the gas tax. We're going to raise the income tax. We're going to raise the property tax. And then more people are going to go. And then more people are going to come in to get more. And that's where we're in a doom loop. And it's not going to get better. It's going to be it is a third world country. It's falling apart. And when you add $250 billion of fraud and stolen monies, and I must say, trying to be as objective as I can, I've been following that story, and I would conservatively suggest that the names that are in the paper, online, pictures, I would say of the people who have been arrested, 60 to 75% are immigrants. So that's not a good look. People coming over there, instead of kissing the soil and saying, thank God I'm in the United States, I owe so much to my host. It's not. It's, oh man, there's nobody. These people are stupid. They give away stuff. I'm going to get mine. That's the wrong attitude.
Yeah. Somebody, hey, we flew them over here even at our own expense so they could then rip us off is easy to connect those dots. There's an online publication out of Fresno, Victor. I just coincidentally saw it the other day. I think it's GV Wire.
Yeah.
And it had an article by two nonprofit leaders, people, Catholic organization. They're trying to do the Lord's work. And we're hurting in the Central Valley now. There are fewer donors. And the reason is people are leaving. People are charitable.
They're leaving. I just last week, two people that I would say are in the high income brackets. They pay a ton of taxes. They basically said, I'm done. I pay, as one person said, with the federal income tax and the Medicare and the Obamacare and the California 13.3, I pay 58% of my income. And I get the worst roads. I get gangbangers, I get high crime, I get filthy streets, I get homelessness, and I get elections like they're in Los Angeles, and we're sitting on a bonanza of gas and oil, and we have $6.50 gas. We have second largest, third largest forestry industry, and we let it burn down. We have 60 million trees that burned up, and we drove everything out except maybe 2 companies. We have rare earth mineral. We have everything. It's the most richly endowed state in the country, and the most beautiful, and it's the most ill-governed. So they're leaving, and I don't know what's going to happen. And you get the impression that people want them to go. It's like the Seattle mayor, bye-bye. In The Dying Citizen, I quoted an immigrant, and he was quoted as saying, we're so happy you people are leaving because you're making room for us, and we're taking over.
And that was Victor Davis Hanson. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, Professor Feynman.
There is a number that haunts every physicist, every astronomer, every person who has ever tilted their head back on a clear night and stared into the dark. That number is so large, it almost stops being a number and starts becoming a kind of philosophical problem. There are, by current estimates, somewhere between 2 trillion and 3 trillion galaxies in the observable universe alone. Each of those galaxies contains, on average, hundreds of billions of stars. And orbiting those stars, as we have discovered through decades of painstaking observation, are planets. Enormous numbers of planets. Planets in the habitable zones of their stars. Planets with liquid water. Planets with rocky surfaces. Planets that sit at just the right distance from just the right kind of star to make the chemistry of life at least conceivable. When you do that arithmetic, the number of potentially life-bearing worlds is so staggeringly large that the intuitive, almost gut-level conclusion seems obvious. The universe must be teeming with life, intelligent life. Civilizations that have been growing and thinking and transmitting signals into space for far longer than we have. And yet here is where things get genuinely strange. Because despite all of that math, despite all of those trillions upon trillions of candidate worlds, we have received exactly nothing. No signals, no artifacts, no unmistakable signature of another mind reaching out across the cosmos. The silence is absolute. And that silence is one of the most profound unsolved problems in all of science. This is what the physicist Enrico Fermi captured in a single, devastatingly simple question at lunch one afternoon in 1950. A question that has since become known as the Fermi paradox. If the universe is as large and as old as we know it to be, and if the conditions for life appear to be as widespread as our telescopes suggest, then where is everybody? That question, short as it is, contains within it a genuine confrontation with some of the deepest uncertainties in physics, biology, and the theory of intelligence itself. To understand why finding intelligent life might be genuinely impossible, and not merely difficult in the way that finding a lost key is difficult, we have to start with the mathematics of time. The universe is approximately 13.8 billion years old. Our own sun did not ignite until about 4.6 billion years ago, which means that by the time our solar system was even forming, the universe had already been running for more than 9 billion years. Stars older than ours have had 9 billion extra years to cook up planets, to allow chemistry to complexify, to permit the slow grinding gears of biological evolution to do their work. If life can emerge, and if intelligence is a natural downstream consequence of life, then civilizations older than ours by hundreds of millions, perhaps billions of years, should theoretically exist. A civilization with even a million-year head start on us would be so far beyond our current capabilities that the gap in technology would be comparable to the gap between a modern supercomputer and a stone tool. And yet the sky is quiet. The natural first response to this is to question one of the assumptions in the chain. Maybe the conditions for life are far rarer than we think. This is the heart of what biologists and physicists call the rare earth hypothesis. The idea that while stars and planets are common, the specific combination of factors that allowed life to flourish on Earth is extraordinarily unusual. Think about what Earth actually has going for it. We orbit a relatively stable middle-aged star that does not blast us with lethal radiation. We have a large moon which stabilizes the axial tilt of our planet and keeps our seasons from swinging into chaotic extremes. We have a Jupiter-like planet in the outer solar system that acts as a gravitational vacuum cleaner, intercepting many of the comets and asteroids that would otherwise pummel us into extinction every few thousand years. We sit in the quiet outer suburbs of our galaxy, far from the dense radiation-soaked galactic center. We have plate tectonics, which cycles carbon through the atmosphere and regulates our temperature over geological timescales. We have a magnetic field strong enough to shield our surface from charged particles streaming off the sun. Each of those factors individually might be common enough, but together as a package, the probability of all of them occurring simultaneously on a single planet may be extraordinarily small. The universe may be full of worlds where life got started, only to be sterilized by a nearby gamma-ray burst, or frozen when the planet lost its ability to regulate its own temperature, or bombarded into oblivion without a Jupiter-like guardian sweeping the outer solar system clean. On this view, simple microbial life might be widespread, but the chain of contingencies required to produce complex, multicellular, eventually intelligent life is so long and so improbable that Earth could be genuinely rare, perhaps even unique within the observable universe. But let us say we reject that pessimistic framing. Let us say life is common, and intelligence arises reliably wherever complex life persists long enough. We then run straight into a second and perhaps even more sobering barrier. The sheer scale of the universe makes physical contact, even radio contact, almost impossibly difficult from a practical standpoint. Here is an analogy that I find captures the problem beautifully. Imagine you are standing in the middle of the Sahara Desert holding a single grain of sand. That grain represents the volume of space within which we have conducted meaningful searches for extraterrestrial signals. The entire desert surrounding you represents the observable universe. Our searches, even our best and most sustained ones, have covered an infinitesimally small fraction of the total volume of space at a tiny fraction of the possible frequencies over a cosmically negligible slice of time. The SETI program, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, has been scanning the skies for radio and optical signals since the early 1960s. And while it has grown enormously in sophistication, the honest assessment is that we have barely scratched the surface of the search space. A civilization that chose not to broadcast on the frequencies we have prioritized, or that uses communication methods we have not yet conceived of, or that transmits signals too weak for our current instruments to detect, would be entirely invisible to us. Absence of evidence in this case is emphatically not evidence of absence. There is also a profound timing problem embedded in the structure of physics itself. Even if two civilizations exist simultaneously in the galaxy, and even if both are broadcasting powerful signals in every direction, the probability of those signals overlapping in time and space, given the distances involved, is genuinely small. Light travels at approximately 300,000 kilometers per second, which sounds fast, until you realize that the Milky Way galaxy alone is roughly 100,000 light years across. A signal sent from a civilization on the far side of our galaxy right now would not reach us for 100,000 years. A response from us would take another 100,000 years to arrive. The conversation would span 200,000 years, and that is within our own galaxy. The nearest large galaxy, Andromeda, is approximately 2.5 million light years away. The timescales involved make meaningful two-way communication across intergalactic distances essentially impossible within the lifespan of any civilization we can imagine. And this brings us to what may be the most unsettling possibility of all, a possibility that physicists and astrobiologists have come to call the Great Filter. The idea, first articulated seriously by economist Varney and Hanson, is this. Somewhere in the sequence of steps that leads from dead chemistry to starfaring civilization, there is a step so difficult, so improbable, so catastrophic in its failure rate that almost nothing makes it through. That step is the Great Filter. The question that should make every thoughtful person pause is not whether the Great Filter exists. Given the silence of the cosmos, it almost certainly does. The question is whether the Great Filter lies behind us or ahead of us. If the filter lies behind us, then we are the lucky survivors of a near impossible gauntlet. Perhaps the emergence of life from chemistry is the hard step, occurring only once in trillions of worlds. Or perhaps the evolution of the eukaryotic cell, the complex cell with a nucleus that forms the basis of all multicellular life, is the bottleneck. The fossil record on Earth suggests that prokaryotic bacterial life existed for roughly 2 billion years before the first eukaryote appeared. 2 billion years of waiting for a single extraordinary evolutionary innovation. If that step is the filter, then intelligent civilizations are genuinely rare. The silence makes sense, and we are among the first. In that scenario, the vastness of the cosmos is simply ours to explore. But if the filter lies ahead of us, the implications are almost too dark to sit with. It would mean that the emergence of intelligent life is actually not that difficult, that civilizations arise with some regularity across the galaxy, and that they are then destroyed by something, a challenge or a catastrophe or a self-inflicted wound, before they ever manage to spread beyond their home system and become visible to the rest of the universe. This could be the runaway development of technology that outpaces wisdom. It could be the inevitable thermodynamic limits of civilizations that grow their energy consumption exponentially on finite worlds. It could be a biological vulnerability, a pandemic triggered by the complexity of their own biotechnology. Or it could be something we have not thought of yet, some phase transition in the development of intelligence that most civilizations do not survive. The disturbing implication of this second scenario is that the silence is not a quirk of timing or a limitation of our search techniques. It is a signal that tells us something profound about the fate of intelligence in this universe. And in that reading, the discovery of simple microbial life on Mars or Europa or Enceladus would be not a triumph, but a warning, because it would mean that life is common, that the early steps are easy, and that the filter, therefore, lies ahead of us rather than behind us. There is a further layer to this puzzle that touches on some of the most speculative but genuinely serious corners of modern physics. We tend to assume, without really examining the assumption, that a sufficiently advanced civilization would make itself known, that it would broadcast, that it would build structures detectable from light years away, that its energy consumption would leave a thermodynamic signature visible across the galaxy. Freeman Dyson famously proposed that a civilization harvesting all the energy of its star would surround that star with a shell of structures, creating a distinctive infrared signature. We have looked for these Dyson spheres. We have not found them. But the assumption that underlies the search, the assumption that a civilization will want to be found, may itself be deeply flawed. Consider what happens to a civilization as it grows in technological sophistication. At some point, the computational resources available to it become vast enough that the interior life of that civilization, its simulations, its virtual experiences, its inner universe of generated complexity, may become far more compelling than the physical universe outside. A civilization that has reached a certain technological threshold might choose collectively and rationally to turn inward, to invest its energy not in expansive colonization of cold and empty space, but in the generation of ever richer inner experience. In this framing, the silence of the universe is not evidence of absence. It is evidence that civilizations, when they mature, become quiet. They go dark not because they died, but because they chose a kind of depth over breadth. This is sometimes called the transcension hypothesis, and while it remains speculative, it is grounded in a real feature of how complex systems tend to evolve. The history of technological development on Earth shows a consistent pattern of miniaturization, of doing more with less, of finding that the richest complexity is often found not at larger scales, but at smaller ones. The transistor replaced the vacuum tube. The microchip replaced the room-sized computer. The most powerful information processing we know of happens inside biological neurons that are invisible to the naked eye. There's no obvious reason why this trend would reverse for a sufficiently advanced civilization. And if it does not reverse, then the most advanced minds in the universe may be invisible to us precisely because they are operating at scales and in modes that we cannot currently detect. What all of this adds up to is something genuinely humbling. The impossibility of finding intelligent life is not a simple statement about physics or biology or the size of space. It is a statement about the convergence of a dozen different barriers, each one capable on its own of explaining the silence, but taken together forming a kind of cosmic quarantine around intelligence itself. The distances are too vast for physical travel on any reasonable time scale. The time scales of communication at the speed of light are too long for meaningful dialogue across galactic distances. The window of opportunity for two civilizations to overlap in both time and technological development is narrow. The internal pressures on civilizations may drive them into silence long before they become visible to the wider universe.
And that was Professor Feynman. Back in a minute. Thank you. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there, and reminding you that you're not neutral and that the government has no rights.